Notnerd Podcast, episode 189, many moons ago.
Welcome to the Notnerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we're here to help you tech better. We've got all kinds of important technology news today. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello, everyone. So, are you sure it's important? Are you sure it's important?
Yes, I was thinking about that. I might start a new segment of headlines I don't want to talk about because I go through so many different articles of stuff that just it doesn't matter to anybody. And just to prove, so maybe I'll start adding about 25 headlines at the end of the episode of things that we're not going to talk about.
Right.
Well, it was the 50th anniversary of one of the most important movies ever made.
No, it's reality.
A Hollywood momentous occasion.
No.
The moon landing.
No, it happened. Nate, you can shoot a laser at the mirror on the moon and have it come back to you. How did the mirror get there if we didn't go?
I did not know about the mirror.
Yes, it's there. Anyone can utilize this mirror.
Yes. The reason for my skepticism about the Apollo 11 moon landing many moons ago
many moons ago
is the fact that we just haven't gone back. Like if we were able to do it in 1969, I feel like
we have actually gone back many times after the initial thing. It's just we're not still going back.
Yes. Feels like I could hop in an Uber and show up on the moon in a day.
Well, did you know that NASA is going back to the moon? And China's been there with robots.
Yeah.
So there's still activity there, but they're planning on going back.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But what's great about this is there's a lot of interesting lead up to this 50th anniversary. There were applications that you could get to put on your phone, and you have an augmented reality of like the lunar lander, or looks like you're on the moon or whatever. There were countdowns and broadcasts of the exact recordings on the exact time that you could tune into, like it was going to be happening. And T-minus 3 days, they're going to the moon, and you could listen to it in real time. They have these wonderful computer models based on the telemetry data that shows exactly the positions of the aircraft and all these things spacecraft as they're descending and all those things. Allegedly. Apparently. They just invented this data.
It is pretty amazing to see the technology that was used in 1969 and the lack of it. I did read a couple, there have been a lot of the kind of stories coming out and people talking about different parts of it and how he had to move where they landed because it wasn't a good spot where they had originally planned.
And they didn't know if they would sink right into the dust. I mean, it could have been 20 feet of like talcum dust and they would have sank to the bottom and died. They didn't know.
The fact that they made it back, per se, is pretty stinking amazing.
You mean walked out of the sound studio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All I got to say is don't say any of this around Buzz Aldrin, or he will punch you in the face.
Yes, there is that great video I saw a couple times this weekend as well. Well, let's move into some follow-up this week. Dave, the My Noise iOS app.
Yeah, you talked about a website that was like gregorianchants.org.com/net or something like that. And the parent site of that piece was mynoise.com, and they have an application that you can get for Android and iOS. And in the past have downloaded this before. I've downloaded hundreds of applications that I thousands that I have forgotten about. So I went back, got the application because I had recognized the logo and said, I think I have that, and downloaded it and played around with it. And they give you a sample of different scenarios, some scenes, if you will, like you're on a clipper ship, and so there's some noise and there's some creaky boards and some splashing sounds, and you have channels that you can turn up and down. I love this kind of stuff. I love recreating audio scenarios.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of a fun thing. And apps like this make it absolutely possible. So I bit the bullet. My follow-up here is I bit the bullet. I paid the $9.
Wow.
And I unlocked every single sound and scenario the application has to offer.
Nice.
You want to go to deep space and listen to the songs of the stars? Do you want to go to
the moon,
an Asian continent, and listen to sitars and strings while the bells or the bamboo things are clanging in the background. You have full control. You can create any scene. You can layer scenes upon layers. I've made some wonderful ones based on several scenes, and you can randomize the different volume levels of each channel so that it's not the same thing over and over and over again. So I've had a lot of fun. It was $9 well spent for the My Noise iOS app. And if you don't want to spend the $9, you can just download it. There's a few free samples you can just play around with indefinitely. So I would highly recommend that.
Very cool. Yeah, it was the Gregorian Voices Generator is the one that we had talked about last week. We had also, I think we brought this up when it was announced, but they are now available. The Wyze bulb, that's WYZE, which you have delved into their ecosystem, the company Wyze.
Yeah, I was excited to hear that they had sensors that were coming out because the possibilities are limitless when you have a sensor involved. That you can schedule and do different things, tasks based on the sensors. And the bulbs are just a part of that. So imagine, if you will, on my door here to the studio, I have one of these sensors. And every time the door opens, my Wyze bulbs turn on.
Yeah.
And maybe my camera takes a picture of what's in the room or whatever. Or maybe I want a motion sensor. Every time I move around in the room, it notices that there's someone in the room, the lights come on or whatever. So imagine these scenarios at your home. So I'm always excited when Wyze releases a new product because you can kind of see the trajectory of their business model and what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to become a leader in home automation. So this is just another step in that. This is another rung in that ladder, if you will.
Yes, and they're very reasonably priced, which we like as we look at the holistic cost of buying into Wyze. We used to always talk about quarterly results for Apple and other companies, and I've tried to get away from it because it falls into one of those things that it doesn't really matter unless you're really have a lot of stock. Even then, it's like you're checking the stock, so who cares? But
even if you have 10 stocks, it doesn't really matter. You have to have thousands of stocks.
Yeah, but there were a couple things I noticed this week as they're doing their Q2 results from a couple of the big companies. Microsoft has the highest market value of any public company. They have stayed over $1 trillion. Apple and Amazon have hit it and are just back underneath it. But the interesting thing I saw with Microsoft is maybe it's not interesting, maybe it should be expected. Xbox hardware sales are way, way down. People are just not buying the gaming consoles as more their subscriptions to the Xbox Live gaming service are going up. But we're just we talk about gaming and how it's going to change, and it seems like it's definitely going through a change now. And
each generation of video game consoles, there's clear winners and clear losers.
Yeah.
And this generation with the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One and its ilk, the S and the X and the arcade and the no drive and whatever, all of the Xbox One models. And then there's Nintendo Switch. Well, for the hardcore gamers, it's either Xbox One or PS4.
Yeah.
And PS4 seemed to have won that battle. Sony was selling more and more of those, and they did very well. And then you've got the kind of the outlier, the Switch, which is one of those, some hardcore gamers buy it, a lot of families buy it, a lot of kids, and so they always sell a ton of models. And so that leaves poor Xbox, you're kind of stuck in the middle. You're either an Xbox fan and you're getting Xbox no matter what, but if you kind of go with the tides of the video game console wars, you might lean towards PlayStation because they're winning. And I could see people having both the Switch and the PlayStation and not buying the Xbox One. And it's been the other way in the past.
Yeah.
Sometimes Xbox has sold really well, and the Wii U, for example, has sold terribly for Nintendo. And the PS3, I think, was a steady competitor. So it just ebbs and flows. Yeah. I wouldn't worry about too much. I used to be a Sony PlayStation guy. Of late, I've been an Xbox guy, but I've generally skipped this entire Xbox One, PS4 generation and just bought the Switch. So who knows?
Yeah, it is interesting. We'll see where it goes, because if they can start building these gaming services into smart TVs, because the smart TVs have enough power.
Well, and we talked about the streaming video game services that are coming up.
Yeah.
And so hardware is going to be one of those things that becomes less important in the future, and the services that they offer is going to be more important. And Xbox has certainly made big strides in making that happen, and their next foray into the new generation is going to be all about streaming.
Yep. Netflix, speaking of streaming, this was the first quarter in the last 8 years where they lost net subscribers. So they were down overall subscribers. They got a lot of new subscribers, but they lost more than they gained, which again, probably even more than gaming, the TV streaming, the whole TV video experience is all over the place right now.
Very fragmented. And if I could speak into this, Netflix, if you're listening, and I know you are, guys, you got to stop it with those auto-playing trailers on the main page, and you got to stop putting up ads for your content the second a program is over. You got to stop that stuff. Because I got to tell you, I've been an Apple TV version 3 user for years. And I recently, delved into the Fire Cube and the next generation of the Apple TV, and they all have these updated Netflix applications that are all the same. They just haunt you with all of this plain video and sound. And I got to tell you, I hate it.
Yeah.
And knowing that Netflix is losing a lot of the content that I love and probably won't be getting a lot of it back, I'm thinking, man, Amazon Prime Video is one of the services for me. Guess what they don't do? Live video and audio trailers of their stuff. I mean, they have some of that in there, but it's at this point in time, it seems all very optional and not forced down your throat. So if they want to turn this thing around, they got to be a little bit more friendly to their customers.
Well, and one of the good things, besides the fact that everything's getting more fragmented between the different services, is there's a lot of new services coming. Disney's got their huge one. We talked about the HBO Max, Apple's service. So there's going to be a lot of competition. One of the things that Netflix did this last quarter was raise their prices again.
Yes.
So that never helps anything. So I think hopefully if we can ride out this wave of change, that it'll kind of settle in and we'll have some good competition and maybe the prices will come down, or maybe they're going to have to step up their game to try to keep things going strong for all these different streaming services.
Well, my prediction is that someone will come along and aggregate all these services and call themselves cable, and we'll be right back where we started again.
Xfinity and beyond. Well, we missed World Emoji Day, Dave. Did you do anything to celebrate?
I lulled. That's about it.
Yes. It was last week, World Emoji Day. Every year it comes around, and Apple and Google did not miss it by announcing their new emoji that are forthcoming in their new versions of operating systems coming this fall. A lot of we've talked about these ones before. I think a lot of them, the accessibility, the service dog, the wheelchairs, the prosthetic arms and legs.
You know which one I am most excited about? The absolute top of my list, the green circle.
Yes.
The green circles.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to use that.
Yeah. And the yawn emoji, which we will be seeing sarcastically everywhere on the web. Also doing a lot more stuff with diversity and the skin tones and all of that stuff. So more emoji coming.
An ear with a hearing aid in every skin tone imaginable.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of the scenarios that I might want to use a hearing device on my...
For your emojis.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess maybe they exist. I can't think of it.
Someday you'll figure it out. Prime Day. Did you buy anything for Prime Day? It was happening as we recorded last week.
One of the items I bought that we'll talk about later was technically a Prime Day deal, but it wasn't like, I think they just discounted it because it was Prime Day, but it wasn't part of their big extravaganza. Yes. Now I had $20 of credit for anything and $20 of like Kindle or Amazon device credit. And I couldn't decide. You remember I was like, do I get the Fire Tablet 8 or do I get the Show 5? Man, the names, these things. And I just said, heck with it. I'm just going to get something else. And so I did. Yeah, I don't think I bought anything. I was traveling some for work when it was going on. I took a look a couple times. I bought some stuff right before it that I needed for work that week. But yeah, there wasn't anything. But it was for a lot of people. It was Amazon's biggest shopping event in history. It was more than Cyber Monday and Black Friday combined. Now, is this a fair analysis? Because it really was like 4 days of stuff. Yeah. It was like, oh, hey, if you're a Prime member, Amazon Prime Day is 48 hours before it starts. And then it was like 2 days long. And so it's kind of spread over 3 or 4 days. So was it more than last year? Yeah, because it was 4 times as long. So I would like to see some of the actual numbers on that.
And they are always pretty vague with their numbers. They said sold more than 175 million items this year compared to 100 million items last year. So that's pretty big. The top sellers include the Life Straw personal water filter, the Instant Pot Duo 60, which I actually almost bought an Instant Pot and didn't, and the 23andMe DNA testing were like half price.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and I would like to do that, but I didn't pull the trigger. I'm sure Black Friday will come around and you'll be able to find these deals again. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
What's that Instapot thing? What does it do?
It it does many things. It does many things. The Instant Pot is like a pressure cooker, a home pressure cooker.
Okay.
They're very popular. I thought everybody in the world had them already, but they sold a lot of them.
Ironically, my home is a pressure cooker.
A record number of Prime members shopped during Prime Day in the USA. Prime members purchased more than 100,000 lunchboxes, 100,000 laptops, 200,000 TVs, 300,000 headphones, 350,000 luxury beauty products, 400,000 pet products, 650,000 household cleaning supplies, and more than 1 million toys.
I just had an epiphany. You and I have known, and we've talked for years about pets and how popular they are. And if you could just get into the pet industry, you'd be a billionaire.
Yeah.
We need to do technology for pets.
Just do a podcast for dogs. We'll talk about pet technology to dogs. You just put it on while you're going
to work. Let the dogs listen.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Don't steal our idea because we're going to get right on that.
Now we just need to figure out how to get the dogs to buy the stuff that we put the ads on for. So we get the kickbacks.
Well, we'll figure it out. There's got to be a way.
Bark if you want to buy this thing.
Yes. You know what else you should bark for? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
Now, Nate, I think everyone remembers your grandpa had a couple books.
Yes.
And he liked to look at the technology tips in these books and make his life better. And one of the books you lent to me was Computers for Seniors.
Yes.
And man, this cover. Imagine tasking a 4th grader with Microsoft Word to create a cover. This is the cover
That's it.
you would get. Well, I was flipping through earlier and I found this section called Computer Housekeeping. And this, I don't think this has anything to do with physically cleaning your devices and making them germ-free. It has more to do with what's inside your computers. The files are inside the computer.
Yes.
So all of us have lots of files, whether it's pictures or PDFs that we've downloaded from websites or whatever. The longer we're in this computing space, the more and more files we get. And the harder and harder it is to organize and deal with these files.
Much like my garage.
Yes.
In the physical space.
So there were a couple of tips in this book that I think are applicable to today.
Nice.
Now, I'll just read one section. It talks about bringing your files to order, and it says, divide and conquer your info. Think of your monthly gas bill. You may file this at home in a hanging folder, labeled in utilities, inside a drawer of your file cabinet. So it goes on and paints this picture of a physical file space and how your computer can kind of emulate that. Well, Apple a few years ago famously said, we're not going to allow any file system structure on your phone or your iPad or any iOS devices. And it's only been recently that they've come back around and said, you know what? We're going to give you an application called Files, and we're going to link that back to your computer, and you can organize your things. And so what goes around comes around. We're back again to managing our files and folders. Here are a couple tips that can maybe help you at home organize your files better. So on iOS, you can think about organizing things by file type, and the operating system there kind of does that for you. If you create a file in Pixelmator, it keeps all of its files together. That's a file type. You can think about folders. Hey, I went on a trip to Barcelona. I want to have pictures, my itinerary, PDFs, menus from restaurants. You can keep all those different file types in a folder. You can do that now on your iPad and your iOS device, other iOS devices. One thing that people, I think, underutilize because it's a little more ethereal is the idea of tags.
Yeah.
And the way tags work are, I have all these different files that are unrelated of different file types, but I want to group them together so I can assign a tag to them And you can do this on your computer at home. You can do it on your phone. And I won't get into the details of it, but if you did go to Barcelona, you could just simply tag all the items you wanted to search for Barcelona. And then when it came time for your trip, you just enter that search criteria. All the files appear in your menu. So those are a couple things. Now, Google has famously had this type of organizational system that makes OCD people cringe with fear. And this is what I dubbed the bucket o' files methodology. You just put everything in a bucket and you use Google's wonderful search capabilities to find and sift through the things in this bucket. Now they allow people with their email and their Google files to create folders and tags and all these things I've mentioned, but they would prefer you just dump everything in one big bucket and search for it. Yeah. And that works perfectly until you can't remember what you're looking for. And then you're kind of lost. So be thinking as we move into the new future. iOS 13 is coming out. There are more file management options than ever on iOS devices. They all link back and integrate with your Mac if you have a Mac at home and you use iCloud to integrate together. And of course, on Android, it's the Wild West. You can do whatever you want on Android and PC, But the methodologies do apply cross-platform. Yeah. And Nate, I think you had something that was similar to this topic that you wanted to talk about today.
Well, and I've actually got 2 points as we're talking through that. Now, in my line of work, some of what I do is IT stuff. So I am working with clients at businesses, sometimes home, family, and friends, and helping them, whether it's a new computer or they're having an issue with their computer or something's going on. And so I get to see a lot of different computers, and like you're talking about, very different organizational styles. The worst one I ever remember was there was a guy that I used to work with many moons ago, if the moon really exists.
Yes, if that's a thing.
And he stored all of his important emails in the trash of his email program.
I know someone who did that exact thing.
And go on. So I always try to remember, if I've got a new computer, we're trying to get the files off the new one, old one into the new one, or something's changing. It's like, hey, your recycle bin, hey, your deleted folder, is there anything you need in there? But the one thing with the Google method, my Gmail, that's how I do things.
You because hopefully archive it and forget it.
Yeah. Hopefully, if somebody says, oh, that email about the hammer, I can search hammer and then hopefully find it or search who it's from and that kind of thing. But the other thing that I was just dealing with on some computers that I was replacing, going from Windows 7 up to Windows 10, because Windows 7 is going to stop getting support soon. So that's a quick pro tip. If you have a Windows 7 computer, it's probably time to start thinking about getting
allegedly,
a new computer.
Aren't they still supporting XP?
Well, vaguely. So these computers I was working on last week, one of the guys had everything he had ever downloaded ever was in his downloads folder.
Oh, I thought you were going to say desktop. So downloads is one step better.
Yes, the downloads folder. So I try to be efficient in copying data on an older, slower computer. It's going to take forever if it's a big folder. So I look in there, and there's all these big applications like iTunes installers, Microsoft Office installers sitting in there. So it's gigabytes of space that's going to slow down the copy. So I clean that stuff out. But prior to that, on my own precious computer, I wanted to practice what I preach. My downloads folder had about 2,000 items in it.
Oh, no. You're the guy.
Yes. So I took one night, probably took me maybe half an hour or so, and I went through there. I deleted out everything that I don't need anymore, those installer type things. And then, I have client folders for all my clients if it's something, files related to them or different projects I'm working on. So I filed them into my projects folder. I am down to currently, it's gotten a little bit. So I had about 2,000 files. Right now, I am staying at 48 items.
Wow, that's
and
pretty
I had
good.
it down to about 10. So this is what I'm going to charge you with, Notnerd listeners. On your computer, whether it be work or home, just go in, spend some time, clean up your downloads folder. There is probably a lot of stuff in there that you don't know what it is. You don't need it. If you've had the computer for a long time, it could be stuff that's 10 years old. I mean, you just don't know what's in there. Something maybe you were looking for, a picture that you download from Facebook, and you're like, oh, I wonder what happened to that. So do a little bit of organization. That's one problem with the Google method is if it's a file on your computer and it doesn't have a good name, if it's just img_0064, how are you ever going to know unless you do a little bit of maintenance on there?
Well, not to brag, but I just remote desktoped into my computer across the room to take a look at my downloads folder. And I saw that there were 377 files in there. So many of those could be cleaned out.
Yeah. So it's just one of those little maintenance things like the book was talking about. Do a little bit of maintenance there, clean some things out, get rid of some stuff. Also, some of you guys need to empty your recycle bin or your trash on your computer because that can fill up and slow down your computer.
If you think of this idea that like in your home, every item has a place.
Yes.
Well, on your computer with the files, every file has a place. And that place generally is not your downloads folder, your trash can, or your desktop.
Yes. So there you go, folks. That we went much longer on the pro tip, but that is some very helpful, practical information if I ever did hear it myself. Our 5 takes this week. This first story, there's some skepticism, as with everything on the internet, but a guy on Reddit posted...
A guy on Reddit. Florida man.
Yes. That his house was burgled.
Yeah.
They took everything apart from one thing. So he said, I came home this evening to find my house had been broken into. TV, gone. Bluetooth speaker, gone. Wife's work laptop, which was an HP, gone. DSLR camera, gone. Logitech headset, gone. Computer bag, gone. The one thing that was not gone, his MacBook Pro 15-inch laptop. Now, so there has been 1 billion comments and discussion, 514 to be exact. So you can round up to 1 billion on the speculation on this. But I have thought that with all the tracking and activation lock and stuff that Apple's putting on, that if thieves are actually figuring out, I mean, he said that they literally took it out of his computer bag and then took his computer bag. So if they're finding out that you can be tracked if you steal an Apple device, maybe that is a huge advantage.
Or is this thief tech savvy and it's like, I'm not touching that computer keyboard with all those issues and the warranty issues and the butterfly keys.
A couple of his keys on the keyboard probably don't work. He did not mention which model it is, so that is a very good point.
I don't want the dongles. Yeah, maybe he's just a refined tech user who said, I don't want this type of device. But yes, you're probably right. All the tracking and those type of things, he didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Yet another example of why perhaps using the Apple ecosystem is easier, safer from a privacy standpoint, and now maybe safer from a robbery standpoint as well.
Yes. And yes, my laptop has been stolen twice, but both times it was zipped up in the back pocket of a backpack. So they were just in for the quick grab. But yeah, just interesting to think about that if, because I always thought with some of the stuff they put in the iPhones, because you always used to hear, on the subway, people are just grabbing iPhones left and right.
Yeah, now they don't want them because
you literally can't do it. Yeah. I mean, you could maybe get some pieces out of them, but
that's what you have to do. It's like jacking a car. You have to rip down and take all the pieces to even use it. Same with the iPhone these days. You can maybe use the screen. You can't utilize the thumbprint sensor because it's hard coded. You can maybe use the battery or the chassis, take everything out, put a new, like if the body got broke on your old phone or something. So you could use pieces of it. Heck, you could even melt it down and get some of the precious metals out of there. But the work involved in doing such a thing.
The holistic cost of stealing Apple devices is much less than it used to be.
It is much less.
Face app. Dave, have you been face apping? Have you been oldifying yourself this past week?
Actually, Tyler turned me on to this. He and a mutual friend, were playing around with it. And I got to say, the mutual friend, he's going to be handsome no matter what age he is. Yes. I got to say, that hair is just impeccable. I tried it on myself. And the funny thing is, I looked like an older gentleman that was in my life earlier in my childhood and stuff. I'm like, how do I look like that guy? So it seems pretty accurate. Yeah. It's really great.
Yeah, I mean, so it has been all the rage, and it actually came out a couple years ago, and everybody got excited about it then, went away, and you're not on social media much, so you probably haven't noticed that everybody's been posting the old pictures of their kids
I've seen
themselves. None of it. I played around with it, and I was like, I do not want to post that picture online.
I saw the one of Joe Biden who had it applied like 5 times to his face. It was just kind of mushed.
Yes.
But other than that.
But the Democratic National Committee warned the 2020 candidates not to use Face app.
Now, I saw the headline, but I didn't read the article. What do they mean? Are they not to weaponize it, or are they not to use it on themselves, or what?
There are concerns, and there were many concerns this last week because somebody looked at it and found that the app is made in Russia.
Oh, I see. So there's like a malware type concern.
Yeah, and that they're stealing all your data and all this stuff, which somebody wrote an article making all these claims, and then they looked at it, and the company came out and said, and everything's on the up and up. They're definitely not doing anything more than any other company in the world that online that uses a photo. They only upload the photo that you give it to it. They don't upload all your photos. They don't store it on their servers forever. So, and the funny thing is with this Democratic warning to their candidates, you can upload a photo of anybody. So Joe Biden's photo, anybody could put that on there. So I don't know. It was a little bit of techno panic. And then once everybody looked into it, it's like, oh, actually,
it seems like maybe a bunch of old white guys don't understand how the technology works. That's a first.
Yeah. And I will remind you, we are the most nonpartisan tech podcast on the internet. And I'm sure there was probably Republican warnings on this as well. I believe the word is xenophobia, that just because an app is developed in Russia does not mean that Vladimir Putin's looking through all your photos.
Right. Hey, I have a quick sidestep. So, as usual, when you're talking about something to the audience, I try to load it up on my phone, Snapchat or Face app or whatever. And so I did that. And one thing I want to talk about that has become increasingly more noticeable and more annoying is applications asking you to send notifications, and you say, well, no, I don't want that. And then they do a second one that says, now, are you sure you don't want to do notifications? And they might move the button around. They're trying to trick you into doing notifications. And Face app is one of those. Ooh. I can't remember what the other one was, but it's starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
So be weary out there, people, of applications that ask you for things like access to your photos or your notifications or your contacts. You say no, they pop up another message that's worded differently.
Yeah.
And they try to trick you into saying yes the second time. So that's just, I hate that type of stuff.
And Apple does try to stay ahead of that with their policies, but of course stuff slips through and people try to work around it. The one thing with Face app, you might be going, well, why do they need my photo at all? I've got this powerful phone. Well, they do upload the photo to process it on their servers and it really does a great job. I mean, it really gives you a very realistic, it's not like a quick Snapchat filter. Face app, we've probably talked about it too long because by the time you hear this episode, the fad will be over. Oh, Dave looks so old.
I look so old. It looks like I've been podcasting for decades.
Apple, speaking of podcasting, there are rumors coming out of Mark Gurman, who has very good sources with Apple, that they are planning to fund or support some podcasts. So we've talked several times over like Spotify buying some podcast apps and whatever, Luminary, that new service that has exclusive podcasts. So,
and doesn't Spotify own
Gimlet Media?
I thought they own like something FM. No,
Anchor FM.
Anchor FM.
Yeah, so they spent a lot of money on some stuff. So who knows what stage Apple is in this. Maybe it'll be because Oprah, has her TV show coming to Apple TV. They'll have a companion podcast. Again, the discussion comes up. I've heard a couple times people talking about, well, what is the definition of a podcast? In my mind, it's a free feed of episodes that you can get anywhere. So when you have to start paying or it's only available on one service, is that really a podcast or is it just like exclusive
I thought it
content?
Was an audio or a video program that you play on your iPod.
Yes.
That's what a podcast is.
Well, yes. And we're not using the iPods anymore, but we'll see what happens if Apple actually, if anything goes anywhere, but Apple is the king of podcast content. It's the directory that everybody puts their stuff into. Mm-hmm. I heard an interesting statistic the other day that there are approximately 3,000 new podcasts per month. And I have a feeling
and you
that
subscribe to all of them.
Yes, I try. I have a feeling most of those, I would say probably 80% of those don't make it past the first month because there was a story somebody was talking about that there was a lady that started a podcast because she really wanted to and then realized after 2 episodes that
It wasn't for her.
It wasn't for her. She didn't have anything great to say, and it was tougher than it looked. It was actually a New York Times story that was behind the paywall, so I was like, I'm not going to talk about this. But I guess somebody else was talking about it on a podcast, and that she now is going to start a new podcast, so the New York Times wrote an article about her. But you got to have good content. You got to have a reason to do it like we do. Microsoft Word, the business software of all time.
I am not familiar with this program.
Yes.
What is this thing?
Microsoft Word for Android has been installed more than 1 billion with a B.
Wow.
As in boy times. So it just goes to show you that no matter what other apps are out there, Microsoft Word, back to their stock results, it is just the industry standard and people use it. And they have a free version that you can use on your mobile devices.
Well, they've got to bankroll Xbox somehow. So Microsoft Word is the way they're doing it.
Yeah, but it's still there and it's still the number one. I have it on my computer, but I prefer to use Apple's Pages.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe this is a time to talk about Word is not the end-all, be-all. There's Google Docs, there's Pages if you're an Apple person, there's TextEdit if you're an Apple person. There's a million Word-like applications out there. But Word is ingrained into the business culture so deep that I don't know that it's ever going to be pushed out of there.
Yes. 20 years ago, Dave, there was a device.
I wouldn't know. I wasn't alive then.
Yes. The iBook. So we talked recently about the original iMacs, the colored ones, and this was Apple's laptop version of that. Did you ever have one of these colored laptops, Dave?
You know, when we first moved to the Portland area, it was when the new iMac with the teardrop colored, lickable colors came out, and then they soon after had the iBook. I went to, it was downtown somewhere in Portland. I don't even know what store it was, but they had these on display, and I was just like, are you kidding me? This is something my kid's sister would have.
Yes.
This is a toy. I didn't want any part of it.
Yeah.
I thought they were ugly. Didn't want them.
I did have one, actually.
Did you?
Yes,
had the
I'm trying to remember.
One, didn't you?
I might have, and I think it was purchased for me through a job I was doing. But that was my first laptop was one of these iBooks, and it was the first mass consumer product with support for Wi-Fi. So they had the airport wireless card that you had to purchase additionally for $99. So this is. 1999, you didn't just get Wi-Fi and things, and you could not find Wi-Fi anywhere. So even if you got the wireless card, it was very rare that you could connect to Wi-Fi anywhere. But just 20 years ago.
Yeah, and for school-age kids who had these, they were voted most likely to be beat up by a schoolyard bully.
Yes, the colors, how they have not aged well. Comic-Con was this last week, the big one in San Diego.
Oh, I missed it again.
Yes, and I felt that it would be apt to just mention for our comic nerds out there that Avengers Endgame has now passed Avatar as the highest grossing film of all time.
Again, is this really fair? Because you can leave a movie in the theater as long as you want. How many weeks has Endgame been in the theater? They had the initial run, and then they went back and added some additional scenes, and then reran it again. Again, it doesn't feel very fair about how they're doing these things. It's like, well, we're just going to pay to keep it in theaters until it hits that magic number, then we're going to pull it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been in theaters for like 3 months.
Yeah, people are seeing it. I have not seen it yet because I rarely ever go to movies. But so it passed Avatar, which Avatar was huge too, and in the theaters forever. Yes, a changing of the guard. And these comic book movies are still working, so they're still going to do 25 of them a year. Our security and privacy story of the week. I looked in our podcast statistics, and I did not see that we have any listeners in Bulgaria.
I look there regularly, and now this is a thing. I think Barcelona came up. Barcelona is not a country.
No.
Why did that come up?
Weird.
I know. Anyway,
Typo.
But I just say that because Barcelona and Bulgaria sound similar.
Yes,
so
they're probably the same thing.
They're probably, from my U.S.-centric point of view, they're the same thing.
Well, it came out this week that apparently just about all government data that they had stored digitally has been breached.
Yowza.
And I did see in the article that apparently Bulgaria is rated the number one most corrupt country. So If you are listening from Bulgaria, I am sorry. If you previously lived there, I am glad that you made it out. But yeah, so every piece of information that they were storing, hackers had access to it, got it. Who knows what the true story is behind it, but yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
scary.
crazy. Sprint, we do have some listeners that use Sprint as their mobile data service, and their customer data, some customer data was breached through Samsung's website.
Oh, boy.
So they have like the add line service you could do on Samsung's website, and there was a way to get around that and get people's information. So you should have received a notice.
Yeah, that's a bummer. When is the Sprint T-Mobile merger going to happen? Never?
I do not know. I have not been privy to the closed-door talks on that.
Yeah, I heard it's probably not going to happen.
The Equifax, that huge data breach where they were just really dumb about things.
And I'm still mad at this. Who got in trouble for this? Nobody.
Well, finally.
What?
Yes, they have agreed to pay at least $650 million.
That's not punishing anybody.
No, but it could be much more than that. And so Krebs on Security, Brian Krebs, actually has a pretty good kind of Q&A here on what happened and what was decided as far as this legal ruling. And it could be a lot more than that. There's a way that you can go register if you were part of the breach to maybe get part of the settlement. It says here, hang on, 148 million affected customers out of that $425 million pot, that comes out to $2.87 per victim, right?
That's before the lawyers get a hold of it.
Yes. Well, the lawyers' fees are all separate. That's
okay.
Additional. They're finally getting wise on that stuff. You won't see a penny unless you sign up, register through the website, and it could, depending how many people register, be a lot more than the $650 million. That's just kind of the estimated minimum for what it is. So if you want to look into that and sign up, you can get free credit monitoring, which at this point I'm just like, what good is that going to do me?
At this point in time, between Target and Equifax and 27 other ones, Yahoo, I've got 475 years of free credit monitoring.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So you can get some reimbursement if you had some identity theft. So
I don't want monitoring. I don't want reimbursement. I don't need help. I want heads. I want heads to roll. I want people responsible to be held accountable.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I don't know. At least they did something eventually, but it does not seem like enough for something that big. Our bonus odd take of the week. This was interesting, and I saw somebody comment on it saying that it kind of ties to how computers work. Mm-hmm. And it is I think it's about an 8-minute video of this lady who is a unbelievable piano player. And she goes through 16 levels of complexity in playing Happy Birthday on the piano.
Right. And quite separately from this article, I watched this yesterday, just going through my YouTube feed, and I was like, I'm interested in pianos and music. And so I opened it up, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, I did. In the article, there is a comment that it looks like at the 16th level that she's playing with about 12 fingers just because of all the stuff she adds in. But
a third hand is visible.
Just in there playing. But it really breaks it down, and I can play Jingle Bells with one finger on the piano, but nice. She starts out with one finger and goes up to this incredibly complex thing. So go take a watch of that, and it relates to kind of thinking about how computers work, that, if you're writing with pen on a paper, you can only just kind of do one thing at a time, but a computer is doing so many different things at a time, and how it tries to process and predict and all that different stuff.
And maybe this is exciting to you or depressing, but just like pianists, where there's kind of an understood level, and then there's this level just super far beyond whatever you can imagine.
Yes.
Pretty much anything you can think of, any industry, hobby, talent, experience, whatever, there is a whole level of expertise that you're not even aware of. And it's fascinating to learn about these things, about the different types of tonalities and things regarding to playing a piano that you might not have even thought of. Even if you've had 10 years of lessons, you might not even know.
You would not know half of this stuff.
There's
if you
just
can
this
just read music and play it.
Yeah, there's this level in the world that's just so advanced that when you get a peek of it, it makes you feel very inferior.
Yes. This is true. Well, you know what never makes you feel inferior? Our picks of the week.
That's right, because we try to find picks of the week that are relevant to everyone at home that they can afford. None of this $700 software type stuff. No. We're talking about things that are inexpensive and attainable.
Yes.
And this week, I've been wanting one of these for years. I've got this cute little buddy beside me, and this is the Polaroid Cube. Now, I've had one of these in my little wish list on Amazon for a number of years, and what it is a cheap knockoff GoPro type device.
Yes.
It is about, I don't know, what is that, about a 1-inch cube that's got a lens on one side, switches on the other side, and a button on top. That's it. There's a magnet on bottom. You can get accessories for it, but the simple truth of this device is you can carry it around with you, and if you need to take a photo or take a video of something, you just click the button. It's there. The quality is mediocre.
Yeah.
The technology is not that great. This thing with an accessory was $25.
Yeah.
And the quality you get for $25 is certainly better than you could imagine, but not as good as like an $800 GoPro. Do they go that high? I guess they're about $400 or $500. You know, you may be asking, Dave, don't you have an action cam? Yeah, but the battery's always dead, and it's complicated, and it's got a screen on it, and you got to figure it out. This thing, you just point it, click the button, and go.
Yeah.
There's no thinking about it. And so if I'm going to be going camping later this week. I'm going to take it with me. I'm going to a youth camp later next month. I'm going to take it with me. Who knows? If I'm walking around downtown, maybe I'll take it with me. This thing can do and go places that I don't want my phone to go.
Yeah.
And so that's why I got it, just to kind of play around with. But anyway, it's the Polaroid Cube. I got the black version, 1080p video. I don't know, it's like 8 megapixel camera. 6 megapixel camera. It's a lot of fun. I've got the little monkey tripod with it, and when I'm not using it, it's just sitting on my desk or my shelf looking like a cute little character. So it's kind of fun.
It is a fun little thing. I like that. Well, my pick of the week, I have mentioned we were talking about the big Zoom security issue thing.
Yes.
I have found myself recently doing a lot of video conferencing, a lot of meetings from home where I'm jumping on video with somebody, discussing projects, selling stuff, all this different stuff. And I have several camera lights, some that we've talked about on the show, the Lume Cube, which is actually very similar to your little
And I'm thinking they're a good
cube.
pair. I could stick this on top of the Lume Cube. They would look the same, and I could have a video and a light at the same time.
But when I'm on these some of these meetings go at least an hour, and I'm sitting there, and so the light isn't, I try to bring a little extra light to my video conferencing just to look nice, not be sitting in the shadows.
You don't look like you're pale and about to die or something like that.
And so I tried to use one of my lights, but the batteries would always die or they'd get too hot. So I was like, you know what? There's now in 2019 lights that plug into the wall.
What? What is this magic?
Yes. And there's even ones that go on your desk, and they call them desk lights.
Who would have thought?
And we love the company Aki, their little 2-port USB charger thing.
They're kind of a lesser brand of Anchor.
Yes.
They're kind of a cheap everyman's version of Anchor.
Everyman's version of Anchor. So I went on Amazon, as we do, and I shopped around, and I found the Aki Desk Light rotatable table lamp with extra large LED panel, dimmable brightness, USB charging port, memory function, touch sensor, and sleep mode.
Boy.
So to imagine this thing, you have a base, a weighted base with a couple buttons, touch buttons on it, and then you have an arm coming up, and then it almost looks like a Amazon Kindle is slapped on the front of it, which is the light surface.
Okay, so it's like a flat rectangular array of LEDs.
Yes, and so I can show it to you, Dave, and just so you have an idea of it. And it has a white light. It has a softer yellow light. You can adjust the brightness, so like reading light or bright light. And it works really great as a video light as well as a desk lamp. So it's been a very good dual purpose purchase for me.
Is the lens or the light surface, is it diffused?
Yes. So it's like a frosted, so it's diffused. So it gives you a nice soft light. It's not harsh, so I can have it above my webcam shining in my face and it's not blinding me.
And you can tune the brightness up and down?
Yes.
So what's different between that and like a traditional desk lamp? Now, the one that is here on our table is an LED, but it's got the traditional spotlight housing on it.
Yeah.
And so it focuses the light into one area, which you wouldn't really want for video conferencing.
No.
You want something that spreads out and is diffused, so it's a more even lighting surface. So it'd be a neat thing to have on your desk for sure.
Yes.
Dual purpose.
So Dave, if you needed something like this, what would you pay?
Yeah, so Aki LED, carry the 2, the speed of light. I'm going to go with this thing I'm going to say $19.99 for this guy.
I wish it was a little more spendy than that, and it does if I had it.
I will say this, lamps for some reason carry a premium.
Yes.
And I don't know why. So I kind of lowballed it, but let's hear what it is for real.
Yeah, so currently it is $35.99.
Yeah.
When I bought it, it was $27.99. But it is really well built. I should have brought it in today so you could play with it. And the arm goes really high and it has a lot of different options.
It's probably bigger than what it looks like in the picture.
Yes. But yeah, so if you need something like this, maybe your desk at work, if you just need something to give a little bit extra, well, that brings us to our Ramazon purchase of the week.
A $300 lamp.
Yes. No. We love Amazon. We are Amazon affiliates. So if you go to amazon.notnerd.com or any of the Amazon links in our show notes, it redirects you through. We get a little kickback and it helps support the show. So we really appreciate when you guys do that.
And we get a laugh at the products that come through there. Are you kidding me?
So this week, I was looking through the anonymous reports in there to find something to talk about. And I'm very curious because we had 2 very similar products that were purchased, and they are almost identical but different. So I don't know if one person bought 2.
I hope they're not products I bought.
Well, it could be. We have found that several times. So the first one is the Car Windshield Sunshade Blocks UV Rays Sun Visor Protector Sunshade to keep your vehicle cool and damage-free. Easy to use, fits windshields of various sizes, standard 59 by 31 inches.
Nope. I like hot cars and skin cancer.
Yes. The other one was the Echo Noir Car Windshield Sunshade Blocks UV Rays Sun Visor Protector Sunshade to keep your vehicle cool and damage-free. Easy to use, fits windshields of various sizes. Classic. 59-inch by 27.55 inches.
Same response as before.
Yes. So 59 by 31 inches 59. Or 59 by 27.55 inches. So I'm guessing there's a couple different standard sizes that these products have.
Now, what if this is a trick? What if somebody's using these for video production and they're using them to bounce light onto their subjects?
Yeah, like you'll see in the beach.
Yeah.
Shoot where they're reflecting, which I actually have one of those. This would have been a much better deal than the one that I purchased.
I've got a legit one that costs like $7. So settle down.
Man, video professional. But both of these products, the same thing, your standard, the ones that roll up into a circle and then you put them in your window. Now, the thing that I have seen one of these that I've always said, even with our home blinds, if you could put this on the outside of your window, you're going to be much better off because the heat's getting into your car and then it's like, it helps. They do make a huge difference. But if you had one that went around the outside of your windshield, you would be much cooler.
Yeah.
But this person did not buy that product. So there was 2 of these. I'm sure they're both the silver reflective. Dave, what would you pay?
These things can't cost very much. I'm going to go with $8 a piece.
$8. Well, not these ones. We got some wealthy people shopping on our Amazon affiliate account.
I would expect no less.
The first one was $14.96.
Dang, dude.
The second one was $13.96. They do both have 5% coupons, and they might have been on sale for Prime Day. So I don't know exactly what they paid, but yeah. One more thing, if you need a sun visor in the northern hemisphere, we are in summer, and in the Portland area, it has finally gotten warmer here.
Yeah.
They do make a difference. My wife is adamant about using one. I just don't have the time.
You know what, Nate? I care about the environment, and for every lumens of light I reflect back into the atmosphere, I'm warming the planet. So I'm just going to take it.
There you go.
I'm just going to take it.
Yeah. Smart. You're doing your part for the environment.
Save the planet.
So it looks like they did pay $12.31 for one of them and $9.96. So they must have been on Prime specials.
Well, good. Well, good to them. No, I actually have these devices for each of our cars, but they last for years. So I've not seen the need to purchase a new one for many a moon.
Yes. And you might be feeling right about now that this podcast episode's been going on for many a moon. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel, check out the website, leave us a review, tell a friend about the podcast. Our goal is to just educate people, let people know what's going on with technology, and most of all, get out there and tech better.
We should have a pet segment. Pet Tech podcast with Nate and Dave. Well, neither one of us are really pet fans. We both have pets kind of grudgingly.
I actually drove by a van that was logoed up on the side for in-home pet euthanasia.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I thought that might be an enjoyable job for you.
Man, I want to get you a side job on that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Now with pets.